Hey again, fellow YouTube homebrewers, or as I've heard, homebrewers of YouTube. Wanted to do another video regarding supplies and or equipment. One of the things that you'll soon realize before you, well, hopefully you realize it, I know I did, before you start brewing beer, is once you brew it and once it gets fermented, whether you do primary and a secondary, where are you going to put the beer after it's all ready to go? You'll probably do what I originally was going to do. I wouldn't necessarily call it a mistake. You don't realize it until after the fact that you're going to buy a bunch of bottles from maybe a brew store. And they're relatively cheap, I guess. You can get I think you can get a case of them for $20 or something like that. It's not bad. I mean, my concern with doing it is the local brew shops are cool for certain things, and they don't always have bottles on hand. So if I was going to buy them online, I'd worry about buying them and getting them here and half of them being broken. Or at least even one being broken would be kind of a waste. But anyways, so I was thinking, well, I drink enough good beer, and most of these good beers come in brown bottles, and I consider a good beer, for the most part, a beer that is a pop top, not a twist top. So I'm like, well, you know what? Why don't I recycle those bottles? And I know I've seen a lot of videos and people talk about this all the time on YouTube once they get into home brewing. But I'm a thinker, I guess, and I overanalyze everything. And I'm like, you know what? I could save myself even $25 ahead of time when I go to buy the bottling stuff if I just do my own bottles. So I'm like, okay. So what's the first step of using your own bottles? Well, you got to get the labels off. And this is This is in a series of videos that talks about the tools and the equipment, so I figured, it'd be good to talk about how I do it. I've seen videos on people doing it with, some of the various cleaners and cleansers that we use to clean our equipment. I had read something, and maybe even in a book, but I know I did this search on the internet about how to get the labels off, and what I found and what I did to get, right now I have like 120 bottles that I did, and I'm only going to show a small segment of it. I used ammonia. I used about a cup and a half ammonia. I didn't measure the water. I only really measured the ammonia so I didn't overpower myself with it. Because if anybody's messed with ammonia or has cats, that stuff reeks. And when you get steam with ammonia in it, oh yeah, forget it. Anyways, so I've been sticking the bottles in ammonia, and that's what you're seeing right here. Is a bunch of bottles that have been sitting. Actually, only a couple. I've cleaned most of them out yesterday. Sitting in ammonia. Now, the cool thing about this is when it soaks in ammonia, as you can see, it comes off relatively easily. Now, in reality, I could have done this probably within an hour last night when I put these things in here. I let them sit overnight, and that was because I actually forgot about them. But one of the things I found is some of these labels like this, they peel off really easily. If you get Fat Tire's Ranger Indian Pale, oh, it's pretty good. I'm going to try to make something like this. Nice and hoppy. Anyways, what'll happen is there's still a residue. Now, you can't really see it as much on these bottles, but this bottle right here, which is why it's still sitting in here, you'll see that residue right there? That's from the sticker. Now, you could sit here and scrub the living crud out of it and, ruin your hand and whatever else instrument you're going to use. But I found that if you take the label off and then stick it back into the ammonia and let it soak for a lot longer, maybe another day, even overnight or whatever, in a bucket like this with a lid on it, because I have a lid for this, so it won't stink up the kitchen or wherever you're going to put it, works great. You barely have to scrub it all. A little bit of warm water, and it comes off like paste. So some of these bottles you got to soak twice. Sometimes you just got to do it once. Like those bottles, I'll probably be able to rub that stuff off pretty easily. It just depends on the kind of labels and the glue they use. I like ammonia, even though it reeks, because it's cheap. You can go to Walmart and buy a bottle of this stuff, and I think I got this is from Meyer, but I think this thing costs like $1. And I'll be able to, and I still have half of it left, and I've already cleaned 120 bottles. That's what you're seeing right here is just a subset of the bottles that I've cleaned. Ammonia can be used as a disinfectant. I really wasn't worried about that. I'm more worried about getting the labels off because I'm going to end up cleaning these things one more time. And, obviously sanitizing them before I fill them, so they're going to get nice and clean. I was more concerned with getting the labels off, and as far as I can read, ammonia is a pretty good, at dissolving materials, and it breaks down things a lot faster, I think. So give it a shot. I mean, it's cheap, it works. Won't cost you any more money. You know, I mean, if you got a ton of the cleansers and stuff, I guess it's cool. But hey, I use this stuff and it worked great. And I've already done 120 bottles, and it's a Friday night, and I'll probably end up with another 48 bottles because of me and my neighbors. So, anyways, I enjoy this video. Hopefully, you learned something about something you may not have already known, and if you already knew, try another trick and let me know what you think.